Well, thank you so much for an opportunity to be here. What a privilege it is to be here this morning with this group and to celebrate really 50 years of an incredible legacy that we have had in this district of this partnership with UPC. And we don't take that for granted. What an incredible opportunity it is for our district to partner so well with our United Parent Council, something that other districts envy, and we are the gold standard for that. And so I really appreciate this opportunity to come and share some words with you every time that we have a UPC meeting. But I am joined by a phenomenal team, and since this is our first meeting together, I want to make sure that we introduce them. It's our executive leadership team with Dr. Heidi Lindsay, with our elementary leadership, Dr. Karen Benson, who is new to our team, who is our assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction. We're so lucky to have her. Dr. Sean Holmes is continuing as assistant superintendent of human resources. Ms. Jill Berrigan, there you are, is our assistant superintendent for business services. And rounding out the team is Dr. Chris Osmussen, who is our assistant superintendent of secondary leadership. I'm only as good as this team is, and this team makes me better. And so I'm so appreciative of their leadership and the direction that they have provided our district over the years, and some of the new members of our team who are continuing to push ideas and to get us to think differently. So I feel like I'm part of a dream team that we've assembled in this district. I think what's important to know is that UPC is kind of part of that table too. You are a voice that is incredibly important to us as a district. Rebecca, if you didn't know, Rebecca and I meet frequently to talk about the issues of the district. We invite UPC as part of those critical conversations around the big work that we have around the district. Julie is part of that legacy. And so I'm so appreciative of the leadership of Julie and Rebecca and the leaders that have gone before her with Kia and Jessica Wani and others. So thank you for all of that work. I do also want to acknowledge that, we've got a few board members here as well. President Pantera has joined us, and so thank you for being here. Ms. Jessica Wani here. I saw Ann Greenberg a moment ago. There's Ann. Did I leave anybody else out? I think okay. So,
we have Sandra Christensen,
and Sandra Christensen is online. So, what an incredible statement that is, that our governing board has partnered with district and with UPC, that we see the value of the various roles that we all have to make this a better district. And so I want to thank you for that. So we're hoping to maybe get a little bit around, talk a little bit about some vision that we have for the district. And so I'm going to start with that just a little bit. But in working with Rebecca, we had a number of updates that we thought was going to be in service of this particular group. And so we have various cabinet members and other directors that are going to help provide some updates around some topics that Rebecca and I thought were critically important for this group to hear as we kind of kick off the year. But I do want to start, and with you and just talk a little bit about, as we venture into this year, we're really at a fantastic time in education as we begin to look kind of to the future of what it means for our children today and what kind of future that they're going to have. And that provides us an opportunity. It provides a challenge, but it really provides us an opportunity to look to the future, to see what is it that our children are going to need to best position themselves to have the kind of future that we all dream for our children and all dream for our students that are in our care. And that future is going to be very different, I think, for our children than it is even today. They're going to be entering jobs that probably haven't even been created yet. They're going to be doing things in life that we can't even anticipate. If you just look at how quickly things evolve, whether you're talking about technology or the workforce or the kinds of careers, everything is constantly evolving. We see that in every space that we enter, whether it's healthcare or machine engineering or any of the kinds of careers, we see incredible advancements that we recognize are going to be part of the future that we haven't yet even envisioned yet. And so what is the implication for us, right, as parents, as educators, is we've got to prepare our children for a future that they haven't even seen yet, that we haven't maybe even imagined yet. And what that's going to require us to do is to think differently about the kinds of experiences that we're providing our children, the experiences that are more geared around that opportunities for critical thinking, for creative thinking, for problem solving, for collaboration, for all of those things which are critically important so that whatever career they enter, whatever field they go into, whatever path they follow, whether it's certifications or college or service or entrepreneurship, whatever path that they choose, they're prepared because they've been given the skills to do that. And so what does that require of us? Well, it requires us to think differently about the kinds of curriculum that we have within our district. It requires us to think differently about the kind of experiences that we provide our students. It requires us to think differently about the kind of structure that schools have in place. Because if you think about it, schools have remained largely similar over a good span of decades. You go into a lot of different classrooms and you see a very similar structure in place. You see very similar kinds of curriculum materials. And those curriculum materials, those spaces, those kinds of experiences have served us very well, right? We're all products of those kinds of experiences that have prepared us for the kind of life that we live today. But what I might suggest is that we need to continue to think about not only how the world is evolving, but how do our classrooms need to evolve? How do we create the kinds of experiences where students are working together more collaboratively, where students are thinking about authentic tasks that they're participating so they see the relevancy of the kinds of work that they're learning within class, that they see a path forward beyond just school, that this isn't just about how do we get you through elementary school, through middle school, through high school, but ultimately, what does the plan look like for you even beyond high school? And to have our eye on the future is going to be so important for us as educators in partnership with you as parents, so that we're working together to prepare your children for the kind of future that you want for them, and to make sure that we have not created barriers, but rather we've opened up opportunities for your children to find whatever path that they are and ultimately can be successful. So we're looking forward. And so that's kind of the theme, right, of looking forward. And what does that mean for us? And we're excited to work collaboratively with all of you through that. As part of my my internal plan, I do a 30 by 30 plan. What that means for me is, I visit 30 classrooms every 30 days. And I do that because it's important for me not just to hear what's happening in schools, but to actually see it, to feel it, to talk with people between teachers and students and even parents. I saw Matt at Mountain Trail the other day when I was visiting schools. And it's so critical that I get out to schools to see how the vision that we have for schools is actually playing out in the classrooms. And I know that I was at Sky Crossing earlier in the week, and I was down a hallway, and there was a group, I think they were second or third graders, and they were using the new TWIG curriculum that our governing board just adopted last year. And in that TWIG curriculum, the teacher was passing around this bag, and in this bag, it was supposed to replicate the stomach and something that was going wrong with the stomach. And the students, what they were doing is they were trying to hypothesize what was happening in that bag that was causing the disruption in the stomach. And it was really fascinating to hear the students talk with each other and to hear what they were hypothesizing. And they were coming up with some really good thinking about what they were concluding based on the observations that they were making. What a tremendous experience, right, of connecting science to real world application. That students are not just learning about science, they're actually doing science, experiencing science. That's part of how we have to transform our classroom. I was at Mountain Trail and I went into a math classroom. And in this math classroom, the teacher was implementing one of the strategies that we've been working on in professional development. And that strategy was thinking classrooms. And it's the idea of how do we get students out of their seats on boards, working across the classroom with each other to solve complex problems that don't have an immediate solution. And so the students were up at various boards, and I was talking with one group of students and asking them, tell me what you're doing here. And they said, well, we have to solve the problem, he said, but what we have to solve it as many different ways as we possibly can. right? So it's not just one solution, but we have to think outside the box. We've got to look for multiple solutions. And I thought, wow, how incredible. That's the world we live in, right? There's never one solution to anything. We have to consider multiple solutions to things. And then we have to be discerning about what's the best solution, what's the best pathway. And what an experience that they're providing in that math class to gather those students together around an instructional strategy like that. Again, ways that we can transform the classroom, get students out of their seats, get students talking, get students collaborating, solving authentic, real problems. I went into Desert Shadows Middle School, and I went into a social studies classroom. And in the social studies classroom, the teacher was leading through a discussion about how decisions are made at the school. And so they were talking about, what the role of a principal is, what the role of assistant principal, what's the role of teachers, what's the role of parents and students within that community of decision making. And where the teacher was leading them to, because I could see the outcome on the board, is they were going to be studying political structures across the world. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity it was for that teacher to connect what students understood, were familiar with, to a concept maybe that they hadn't explored yet. And that's the kind of thinking. Those are the kinds of connections that we want students to be able to make in their classrooms. What an incredible opportunity for those students. So when we talk about how do we transform our classrooms, there's evidence all throughout our district of outstanding work like that, in which we're trying to engage students in meaningful, relevant opportunities that are going to provide them with the kind of experiences that prepare them for life, to prepare them for post-secondary, prepare them for post-college even. And that's the eye that we want to have on that. So we're working this year and over the course of this next few years together on what that looks like so that we can envision that. And some of the things that are contributing to that work, contributing to that thinking, are a couple of updates that you will see on the board here in just a second. Some work that we have around our strategic plan and our superintendent enrollment planning advisory committee. So around our CPAC committee, which we launched last year, we are looking at how we continue to gain enrollment in our district, to recapture families that we may have lost, as well as retain families that we have. And we're looking at it from three prongs that I've shared with you before, but just as a reminder, one of those prongs is how do we continue to leverage our marketing and communication strategies across the district so that they're targeted, so that they have impact, and so that we can measure the impact of those marketing and communication strategies. We're looking at it through a lens of programming. How do we, as a system, think about the kinds of future forward programs that we have in our district? So we're, again, eye to the future, right? What do our students not only need right now, but what are they going to need 5 years, 7 years from now? And can we begin to envision what that is so that we can identify specific programs that we want to start up at various strategic points within the district to provide opportunities for our families and ultimately for the children in our district. Now, we believe that those programs are an opportunity for us to draw enrollment, but even beyond that, right? It's really an opportunity to envision a future that for our students and for our education community that is much more forward thinking around relevant programming that's going to be meaningful to our students. So we have a little subcommittee that's working on programming within the district. And then our third prong to our CPAC committee is looking at our resources in terms of our schools. We are looking at a long-term plan for our district. And as we continue to decline enrollment due to birth rates and due to unaffordable housing, all of those are contributing factors to the enrollment in the district. We are going to have to look at our resources and manage those resources, whether that be looking at school consolidations and school closures in the future. So we have a subcommittee that has taken a very thorough, thoughtful approach to that work, that are looking at it not just in isolation of what decisions do we need to make right now, but keeping an eye to the future, like what kind of cadence do we need to be looking at over the next few years to make recommendations to the governing board. We're not planning to make recommendations this year to the governing board because we are taking a very thoughtful approach to this work under the leadership of our assistant superintendents in that CPAC committee. But we will probably be bringing recommendations next year to the governing board around what that CPAC subcommittee develops for that as part of our long-term planning for the district. So this is not a one and done. This is something that we're trying to keep an eye many years out into the future. So that work for CPAC is incredibly important for us to keep that eye to the future. The other thing that I want to mention to you is the work that we're going to embark on this year with our strategic plan. You know, our strategic plan is now about 5 years old. And so we're ready to revisit that strategic plan this year. We're going to be looking at the portrait of the graduate to make sure that the portrait of the graduate that we articulated 5 years ago still holds true for us today. We're going to be looking at our mission, vision, values to check in with those to make sure that those are in accordance, that those still hold true for us as a district through some community input regarding that. But more importantly, this allows us to think about the future and what goals do we want to specifically set to move our district forward. And what are the metrics? What are the measures that we're going to hold ourselves accountable to make sure that what we're doing actually has impact? Because that's the key. We could do a lot of different things. We can do a lot of different work, but it all has to start with the idea of what is it that we're trying to impact? And are we clear about what that impact is? Are we able to measure it in a way that we know that the efforts that we're doing are actually making a difference? And so our goals are going to come with measures and they're going to come with specific action plans so that we have a plan moving future. Our goal is to provide the governing board with a strategic plan by April, sometime in April. And we are starting to launch that work now. We are, for the most part, going to be facilitating that work in-house. We have traditionally gone outside to pull an outside facilitator in to kind of facilitate us in the strategic plan. But we think we're going to do it in-house because we know our culture, we know our people, and we want to have ownership of this plan. And so in order for us to have ownership and build our capacity around what it means to lead change and what it means to lead this kind of work, we believe we want to own the work. And so it's a conscious choice that we've made that we're going to build this plan within UPC and our community. Everyone from students to community members are going to be part of that process. We're going to be launching that process more formally as a committee probably around mid-October because we are using the entire month of September to design the process. And I think it's critically important for us before we just jump into the work that we have a clear pathway for what it means, that we understand what phases we need to lead and what outcomes those phases should have as part of the planning. We think it's important for us to pre-identify what are the touch points we want to have with our community and the larger stakeholder group of people outside of the room of the people that are actually going to be working to develop the plan. What touch points do we need and how often do those need to happen? And so all of that work is going to be critically important for us to think through ahead of time. And so we're going to be very thoughtful about our process so that in the end, we end with a good product and that we end with something that's actually going to drive our work forward. And so process becomes really important to this work. And so we're going to make sure that we get the process as good as we can so that we're ready to launch in October. So I wanted to provide that update as well. And then I do want to remind everybody about our DAA M&O override election. We have provided some flyers off to the side, which provides factual information about our election in November. I'm so appreciative of the fact that UPC has invited Jill Berrigan to speak to this group in September. So she's going to be here in September to provide more information about more factual information about the DAA M&O override, because what we recognize is that you are incredible liaisons to the messaging out in your communities to provide that factual information to people who are maybe not as connected to the reasons why districts ask for DAA M&O overrides, what kind of impact those overrides have on a particular district. And so you can be that amazing liaison to provide that information for those individuals who are just not as connected, right, with the school system or otherwise. So take a fact sheet today. They're there for you so that you can begin to build up your understanding around the why and the what that those override elections do for us as a district. And then Jill will be here next month to share more information with you and certainly answer your questions about that. So I wanted to share those few updates to get us started. And now we have some other updates that I mentioned that Rebecca and I thought would be important for this particular group because either they've come up in conversations or because they're new information. And we thought it would be a great opportunity to kind of front load that with the UPC group, as we know that you work very closely with other parents within the schools. And so to kick us off, Dr. Lindsay is going to speak a little bit about our sister school list. Help us know what that is, Dr. Lindsay.
And I just want to thank Dr. Courson for leading us. He's just done a phenomenal job, and I feel so blessed that he's my boss. And thank you for leading us this year and all that you've done to support our
Stop.
Just a little brown nosing, right? So as Dr. Courson mentioned, I'm Heidi Lindsay. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Elementary. I'm going into year 3. And one of the things that I just really admire about our district is our culture of collaboration. And it speaks volumes to see so many of you here today and the work that you do to support our schools. And I know that that is a longstanding tradition. So happy 50th to all of you. So I wanted to just briefly mention Sister Schools partnerships. Hi, Shay. Nice to see you. And this is also a tradition that's been going on for many years. So we've had a tradition of partnering up schools. So we have schools that are very diverse in, you know, the demographics, and some of our schools have really robust parent support organizations, and some really struggle. And also we have schools that serve high numbers of students that qualify for Title I services. And so over the years, schools have partnered up to support schools that need additional support in different areas. And I helped, my role over the last couple of years is to help organize that and to, you know, be that conduit. So I've sent out a list to all of our principals. I do it at the beginning of every year of all of our Title I schools to just identify what are their biggest needs for them to work with. If they have a parent support organization, to connect with them and identify what are our biggest needs. And then meanwhile, our what we consider our non-title schools, they look at this list and then they are charged, the principals are charged with connecting with the presidents of their or the representatives of their parent support organization, looking at the list and then identifying, is there anyone that we can quote unquote adopt or help out this year. And I know that there's been some partnerships that have been long standing, you know, where schools have been joined up for a number of years, and that's fine. We also encouraged, and then maybe there's an opportunity to branch out and maybe, you know, connect with a new school or collaborate with someone else. So I'm going to send, this has already been shared with our principals. I will work directly with Rebecca to share that with her. And also, as I mentioned, the principals should be reaching out to you to talk about this and see what needs are, whether you're serving at a Title I school or a non-Title I school. So know that this kind of coordination is happening. And if I can be helpful, if you guys run into any snags with communication with the other school or you need something, I'm happy to help. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you, Dr.
All right, so Dr. Benson is going to be coming up to share a little bit about some artificial intelligence guidance. Wow, what we talk about, you know, things that have evolved and transformed within our society. You know, artificial intelligence has certainly been one of those. And like with any innovation, right, there are many opportunities for us to leverage that within the educational settings. And there are some ways that we have to think about how do we mitigate the impact that that's having on learning. And so Dr. Benson has been working with a lot of different people really as a continuation of some of the work that had begun last year with this. I'm really excited to say Rebecca, your UPC leader, has been part of some of that work and has spearheaded some of it through her experience and expertise. And again, just another way that we continue to partner with parents and experts within our community. And I certainly think of her as an expert in this particular area. And so Karen's going to share with you just a piece of some work that we have been working on last year and have already implemented this year regarding artificial intelligence.
Here's a perfect little segue. Good morning, all. Very happy to be here. Thank you. With you all, while I'm new to the leadership team, not new to Paradise Valley Schools, as I moved from the Midwest to Arizona and chose Paradise Valley for my two years ago at Village Vista. That's where we got our start. So that kind of dates us just a bit. Happy to be here with you as I onboard. Just going to do a little litmus test for who's in the room. How many have an elementary student right now in the district? Middle level parents right now? High school? And how many had a former student that's already graduated that we served? Thank you. I appreciate knowing who's in the room. Very balanced this morning. This agenda item could be its own standalone. We could spend all morning talking about AI. So just to make sure that we don't bust the agenda.
Only give us 45 minutes.
Yeah, we can hit on a couple of key areas. We're not alone in talking about AI. As of last spring, in May, national surveys had indicated we're using AI. But 60% of teachers said, while we're using AI, we have no district guidance across the country. So to help us out, there's others that have been engaged in this work. The Arizona Institute for Education and the Economy and NAU said, here's what we should be working on. Over the summer, this came out in June, and I'm happy to report that Rebecca and our ITC were already engaged in doing exactly as was recommended. Identifying expectations for students, talking about what this looks like for teachers, identifying safest tools to get us started, and then really talking about guardrails and privacy. So I'm curious, how many have seen something that might look like this across our schools? Have we seen it just yet? We're only in day 10, so we are rolling these out. But again, as Dr. Courson said, Rebecca's role in this, I wish she was here today to talk, to shout out her leadership and partnership with our instructional technology committee to get us here. So we're just kicking this off. I'm actually going to kind of just start. We kicked off student guidance. There's 5 key areas across our schools. We'll be revisiting this at all admin meetings throughout the year. But we want to be thoughtful about how we're engaging students with AI. We don't want to have a barrier on it. We want to be thinking about how do we best use AI and get our kids engaged in how they might use it to benefit and be critically thinking throughout the day. So that's our first cut, like little entry point with students, how we're going to be thoughtful and purposeful in our classrooms using AI. Teacher guidance, it's very thoughtful what the committee, the Instructional Technology Committee and Rebecca put forward in terms of the human element will always be so important. So while we want teachers to use it to make the lives and experiences in their work easiest, we want all decision-making and support to students to come from our teachers. They have the most valuable role serving in that capacity. And then just wanted to clarify what the recommended tools and which grade levels we're using the tools. Grades 7 through 12 are really intentional to use Google Gemini. My youngest is in Air Force JAG implemented too, and I think it's interesting. This is all they're allowed to use in terms of safety is Gemini right now in the military. That was an interesting little connection. So at grades 7 through 12, our recommended tool is Google Gemini. And then we started a pilot a couple years ago, but with Conmigo, it is an AI-supported tool. We had 10,000 licenses this year. We're going to be intentional to use at grades 4 through 8. It's like a tutor, an AI tutor and it doesn't give answers, but it prompts students to continue to think. So we're just rolling that out. We have 60 more teachers that are onboarding this week, but we're going to be intentional at grades 4 to 8 to kind of push and move that forward. Again, I hope that we get to come back and talk more about what the AI usage in schools might look like and listen more to your thinking about how it's going and what adjustments we might need to make. But in a 3 to 5 minute little blurb, just wanted to get us that far, so you kind of know where we're at foundationally as we kick off 26.
You know, and this conversation about artificial intelligence is really just like a wedge of the whole larger conversation around technology in general and how we use technology effectively. You know, that's going to be really important. I know as part of UPC and just nationally, there's been some attention on screen time, for example. And we know, we believe, right, we've concluded to, when I say we, the larger we, have concluded that, you know, our children are probably on screens more than we would want them to be. And that probably includes a little bit of the classroom and probably at home and other, with all the access to devices. And we've become so technology driven, and technology has been so helpful for us, but it puts us in the spot of having to ask some bigger questions, like how much is too much? When does the human need to kick in versus technology? When do we need to get technology away from students so students can actually collaborate with each other? And so we're having those conversations and thinking not just about how long, how much time is associated with screen time, but like what are the best uses for screen time? Like when is it appropriate and under what conditions should students be engaged with technology? So Conmigo, for example, is a fantastic application of artificial technology and technology because it's adaptive, right? And it's almost like an individual coach to the student. When a student has a question, Conmigo doesn't give them the answer like maybe some other artificial intelligence does. What it does is it prompts them to think differently about it and to ask them questions. So what a great use for that, to leverage artificial intelligence. So we've got to just become really discerning about like how we're using it, when we're using it, and how much we're using it. And there's no like right answers for those, but there's certainly a lot of good thinking that's gone into that. And we want to be part of that thinking as well. So that hopefully at some point this year, that we're continuing to provide guidance to teachers and classrooms about the amount of time versus the application and the type of technology to use and when it's appropriate. So more to come on that, and that'll continue to be in partnership with lots of stakeholders, and as we contemplate what experts are sharing with us about that as well. All right, to keep us moving though, Dr. Osmussen, great to have him join our team, but he's not new to Paradise Valley. He was our Director of Student Services. You might recognize him for that, for secondary leadership, has been a great addition to our executive leadership team. He's going to talk about 2 updates for you regarding 3D printers and our SRO grant. So
Thank you very much. Good to be back. Let me move my clicker and get to my slides. Okay. So in my role as the Director of Student Services last year, safety fell underneath my umbrella. And so I have 2 safety updates to bring to you. But I also want to introduce Shelley Strophus over here, who is our new director. Oh, I got to stand here. Who is our new Director of Student Services. Shelley and I are 17 footsteps apart from one another. School safety is in a good place. She comes to us with great knowledge and was running Horizon High School for the last several years. And so really has a good finger on the pulse. So let's talk about our 3D printers. There was a concern last year brought up that are we overexposing our students and our learners to microplastics and to into some dangerous fumes when those printers are printing. And so we took that concern to, for lack of a better term, to a risk manager. We work with Valley Trust. And so I worked with Adam and said, could you do a little bit of research on this and let us know, like, how big of a deal is this? He came back with his research and some alarming statistics. I mean, I learned that I'm walking around with 1 credit card's worth of plastic in my body. because of just the environmental exposure that we have to microplastics. And so we said, you know what? I mean, we can't eliminate it. We can't protect, we can't walk around in the bubble, but we can do some things to support our students and our learners. And so we began to move forward with mitigating some risks. So the risks are that we have volatile organic compounds. These are actually the same types of things that are picked up by vape detectors. So when we think about vape detectors in the bathrooms, it's not picking up the vape that's coming out of our students. It's picking up these volatile organic compounds, but it would also pick up perfume. It would pick up Axe spray. It would pick up other things. And then also microplastics are ultra-fine particles. Those are our two big issues. To mitigate the risks for our students, what we learned and what we're doing is that it's best to enclose our printers inside of a cabinet and then create a filtering system. So that started with IT and with Adam going out and inventorying every single printer that is in use, 3D printer in use across the district. Some of these were purchased by PTOs and PTAs. Some of them were purchased by the school. Some of them came to us through CTE programs. And so there are lots of different varieties out there. So Adam purchased large cabinets that can fit, those that were not inside of a cabinet. And then we put a filtration system in there with a fan that creates a negative pressure, very similar to like when you're cooking bacon at home and you turn on the hood fan and it sucks all that bacon up. Doesn't capture everything, but it captures a lot of it, right? So two different types of filters are inside of those cabinets. We have a HEPA filter, which is designed to take out the ultrafine particles or to take out the microplastics. And then there's also a carbon filter, which will then take out the VOCs. But that's gonna do a lot, but it won't do enough. And so what we also did is went out and got room purifiers for each of the rooms that these are in. So now we're literally scrubbing the air inside of the cabinet and then scrubbing the air outside of the cabinet. And they should be, deployed out there now. We should be seeing our 3D printers coming back online. And this is a way for us to help mitigate the risk for our students that are in those rooms with those printers that are going. For our school safety program, first off, I also want to share, I used AI, Gemini, to create this picture. I mean, so I just, prompted it. I said, I'd like to see a school resource officer working with middle school students in Phoenix, Arizona, in the courtyard setting, developing relationships with kids. And 6 seconds later, this popped up. Awesome. Okay, so the process for the school safety program grant is a little bumpy when you're going from one grant cycle to the next grant cycle, because it ends in June and starts in July, and our teachers and our staff, mostly our social workers and our counselors, they also end in June and start in July, but all that staffing takes place in February, and the legislature hadn't developed their budget. That budget was not yet prepared for the Arizona Department of Education. They weren't necessarily ready to go to the State Board of Education and get all of their awarded positions approved. So June was a little hairy. In June, that first set of awards, we actually lost 2 of our school resource officers. And we lost all but 1 of our social workers and counselors. So we had a little bit of heart palpitation for a moment. As June continued and July came along, the Department of Education went back to the State Board of Education and worked very hard to fulfill and award all first positions across the district. So we had actually done quite a bit of applying for schools. And we ended up with, after the July awards came out, we now have 15 school resource officers that are serving 22 schools. There are some schools like North Canyon, Greenway Middle School, all of our high schools actually, they have a dedicated school resource officer to their building. Some schools applied with other schools. So for quite some time, Mountain Trail Middle School is a good example. They have paired up with Explorer Middle School, and they've been sharing an officer. So that's why it doesn't just line up one for one. Let me just give you a quick list. And then we also have 4 school safety officers that are serving 6 schools. And I put a little asterisk there. We had some of our schools that are, for example, Desert Shadows Middle and Desert Shadows Elementary applied together for a school resource officer. Roadrunner School applied for a new officer this year. Sky Crossing applied for a new officer this year. And as those new officers were being awarded, the city of Phoenix they were having a little heart palpitation because they're experiencing a shortage with the officers, and now there's more demand for more officers. So where the cities are not able to provide us with a school resource officer, what we do is we offer that money back to the Department of Education. The Department of Education gives that to a company called Off-Duty Management. And then our schools work with off-duty management to bring in school safety officers. So these are off-duty officers that are assigned to the school, and they come in and perform all of the same tasks that a regular school resource officer would do, but you might have an officer on Monday, a different officer on Tuesday, a different officer on Wednesday, and so on. And we've worked through this process before. We had Whispering Wind and Liberty last year. They had been awarded an officer late in the grant cycle. The city of Phoenix wasn't able to provide them with a school resource officer. We went with the school safety officer model, and it worked out very well, because as we get these officers coming in, we can say, oh, we really like what you're doing. You're developing great relationships with kids. Please come back. Or if another officer, boy, you spend a lot of time on your phone, that's not really providing us the safety that we would like. So why don't we see if we can find somebody different? So we are able to work with ODM and get the right officers doing the right work. We have 4 school safety officers now that are sharing at 6 schools. And then we got all of our social workers and our counselors back. So I just want to quickly share with you who's got what, because I'm sure that might be top of mind for you. These schools have a school resource officer. Cactus View Elementary, Campobello Elementary, Eagle Ridge Elementary, Echo Mountain Primary and Echo Mountain Intermediate share. Explorer Middle School and Mountain Trail Middle School share. Grayhawk, Sonoran Sky, and Pinnacle Peak Prep, they all share. They're actually in a different jurisdiction. They're over in Scottsdale, so it's the Scottsdale PD, and that's how they've run their school resource officers. Greenway Middle School, Hidden Hills and Larkspur Elementary School share. Horizon High School, Indian Bend Elementary School and Sunrise share. North Canyon High School, Palomino Primary and Palomino Intermediate share. Paradise Valley High School, Shadow Mountain High School, and Shea Middle School. And then our new awardees for the school safety officers, Desert Shadows Elementary and Desert Shadows Middle are sharing. Roadrunner School, Sky Crossing, and then as I mentioned, Whispering Wind Academy and Liberty are also sharing that school safety officer. And then the schools that pick that, yes.
Sorry, how do you decide what schools get it? And for instance, if Sky Crossing has a safety officer, why not share with like Wildfire and other sites around the neighborhood?
It's written very specific to, the grants are very specific. They're site specific. So when we started writing those grants, we had to, at that point, we were declaring who we were going to share and who was going to try to pick up one on their own. And so that's how we did, that's how that's determined. And then once they're assigned, as a school, once they're awarded, there's very little wiggle room for us to move things around. And then working with the Phoenix Police Department or the Scottsdale Police Department is determining where we're placing those officers.
When would the next opportunity be if your school wanted to potentially have us to communicate with you for the next grant writing process?
So this is a 3-year grant. So in 2.5 years is when we'll be applying again. And then for our school social workers and counselors, Boulder Creek, Copper Canyon, and Desert Shadows Elementary got theirs back, and I'm going to come back and talk about that in a second. Desert Trails Elementary, Fireside Elementary, Liberty Elementary, Mercury Mine Elementary, Mountain Trail Middle School picked up a new one this year. Pinnacle Peak Prep picked up a new one this year. Quail Run, and Sandpiper. So there are 3 schools that are doubled up, and everybody got their first position. So when we applied for the grant, we applied as Explorer Middle School was the lead school to share with Mountain Trail. And then we got sneaky, a little greedy, and we asked for yet another position for Mountain Trail Middle School. And so that's how we ended up with some of these schools getting 2 positions. As far as the scoring rubric out of the Department of Education, I haven't seen the numbers yet, and I can't necessarily tell you why one got it and one didn't. I haven't seen their rubric. The rubric that is shown right now is really more of a district rubric that talks to whether or not we would qualify for any one of these awarded positions.
It's time for just a
Okay.
questions.
Thank you.
One more update.
Yep.
Yeah, just a comment. I just want to say thank you again for your commitment and resiliency to get these submitted in June and in July. Mild palpitations, I think it's an understatement in some of our community. So thank you for everything you did personally, the district, the principal.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. And then going back to this question, like, when do we apply? The application was weird. It opened up in February, and we were literally in 2 weeks later. So we wanted to be first in line for consideration.
I didn't hear Pinnacle High School. Did they have one?
Oh, they have a school resource officer. I'm sorry, I missed that. Officer Russell. Very good guy.
Do you guys apply for all of the schools in the district and then it's up to the state, who they award for?
It's very competitive. Would you agree?
It really ramped up this year. I mean, they've seen a tremendous request for school resource officers all over the state. And it's because of this new school safety program. So if like some small rural town didn't have an officer to give, they can now have a school safety officer. And again, all those sheriffs in the county can come in and fill those positions. So huge increase in the number of awarded positions. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for the
Thank
extra
you,
minute.
Chris. Well, UPC, you're going to kick me off your agenda. Rebecca says, Dan, you've only got 45 minutes. I said, are you telling me I talk too much? And she says, no, but you got 45 minutes and here we are a little bit over. I apologize for that. Julie, can we get one more update? Okay, all right. So the last update we wanted to make is about Arizona Healthy Schools. We've invited our director of nutrition, Camille here, who's going to share a little bit of information because it's had implications, right? It's had implications for our schools and specifically PTOs and sponsors of our classroom who are providing food in the classrooms. And we know this is kind of a hot topic for all of you. Camille has done just a fantastic job of helping us navigate this, along with schools all across the valley that are having to figure this out and interpret and make decisions around this work. And we couldn't be more fortunate to have Camille kind of leading this. So Camille's going to provide a little bit of information to you, and then we'll take a few questions around that.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Camille Unruh, and I've been the director of the Nutrition and Wellness Department since 2019. I'm here to talk about the highly anticipated Arizona Healthy Schools Act. If you haven't heard, this is a law that went into place July 1st, and it bans 11 ingredients in food items that are being either served or sold to students on campus during the defined school day. The defined school day is from midnight to 30 minutes after the bell. And this is in addition to the already established USDA Smart Snacks regulations, but those are only applying to food that's sold for Smart Snacks. The Arizona Healthy Schools Act is different because it's both food being sold and food being distributed to students during the school. I know there's been kind of some confusion on that, and we've been working diligently to provide communication. We have updated our website. There's a page that's just specifically dedicated to the Arizona Healthy Schools Act. It's under the Nutrition and Wellness Department website. But I am your point of contact if you have any questions. That was a brief summary. I was trying to go a little quick because I know we're at the end of the agenda, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I just have a statement. I do think that the principals after the summer meeting were very confused about the conflation of the two. So maybe just checking back in with them and explaining that these are 2 laws and cover 2 different items.
Yeah.
Just so they're aware of that change. Yeah.
So as a parent, if I bring in birthday treats for my child's class,
that would only apply to the 11 ingredient, correct? And not the smart snacks.
Yes, your
That
understanding is correct.
that has been conflated at schools. And so some schools have just banned all birthday treats. But
Okay.
like Krispy Kreme glazed donuts meets the requirements.
I actually. Okay, that's a hot topic, Krispy Kremes, because I just reviewed ingredients yesterday and they do comply. So I think there's the misunderstanding that these 11 ingredients are prohibiting anything from being taught in the classroom. But the majority of the ingredients are food dyes. So for example, if you're a parent and you want to bring in cupcakes, if they're really brightly colored, green, orange, it's probably going to have ingredients that are banned. But the wonderful Krispy Kreme basic glazed donut that doesn't have any colors in it is actually approved because there are no banned ingredients, but you can't sell it. That's
Right.
the thing.
Testing.
Yeah.
Yes. Question?
I would say that Walmart being a place of ingredients, they actually have a lot of things that meet the 11 ingredient, like marshmallows are used in special ed as like, hey, let's get this done, and then you have marshmallow. Walmart Great Value actually doesn't have blue one, whereas the Jet Puff name brand, they do. So when you look at the generic or the
There's
Walmart or Target brand.
there's a lot
they
of
do
options.
really well.
And I'm happy to be your resource. So I've been reading ingredient labels like crazy. And I'm happy to continue to do so. I'm the resource for that. Or I can say, hey, you know what, I already heard Krispy Kreme's approved. I actually just read that. So if that's a good option for you. But thank you for that.
So I'm curious. So the district guidance is based off of the House bill,
Yes, it's House Bill 2164, which is also known as the Arizona Healthy School Act.
And I was just curious, like, is there like a permission slip maybe that the district provides? Because like at the very beginning, it says this subsection does not prevent a student's parent or guardian from providing ultra processed food to the student during the normal school day.
I should have brought that up. It does not apply, neither the Arizona Healthy School Act or Smart Snacks applies to anything you're providing for just your student. It's only if it's going to be.
Isn't that like what they're doing at the parties though? Like in the classrooms? Isn't that what the parents are doing?
It's like if it's their packed lunch just for them, you can pack whatever you want for your student.
That the law doesn't like delineate that sort of like separation. So I'm just curious like how the district guidance is accounting for that kind of thing. Like,
so we use the training that I got from Arizona Department of Education to provide the guidance for the materials we've put together for parents. And we actually did a safe schools training for all staff that's specific to this. And we pulled directly from what Arizona Department of Education posted about this House bill. And in that, it specifically says this does not apply to what parents are packing for their individual students.
Since it's shared with anyone else.
Yeah. Yes, it applies if it's going to be given to other students.
All the vending machines were removed from high school, and that's created a problem with students. Is there anything we can put in a vending machine that is?
I believe we do have vending machines. Oh,
I can talk about that.
oh.
Thank you. There's a big problem on campus.
So let me get in front of the camera.
thank you.
So the vending machines that we were able to secure that not only met all of the requirements, they came to us with a camera and a tap. So you would tap the door, and then you open the door, and now it is a free-for-all. You can take anything that you want out of there. And so you could take two products, and AI will now charge you for those two products. The concern is not so much the single point of sale, although that could be hard for a young person right now that hasn't maybe learned to manage their finances, that now just because you have options to take 6, maybe you shouldn't take 6. But there's also the other option of when you're opening the door to make your selection, other students being inappropriate and taking and grabbing. And that would lead itself into now we have a theft, right? And it's now our duty and responsibility to support the student who was violated. And so just think of the time and the energy that will be put into managing somebody's Doritos being taken from them. So we are now working with purchasing, working with that vendor, working to get the old style machine back. So that way kids can purchase those snacks, but we're not putting them in a bad situation.
And drinks.
I wasn't aware that, I don't know about that one. So I'd have to do a little bit more with that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Camille?
Are all these guidelines, being considered for the lunches that are sold in school?
Yeah, so this applies to everything my
The
department does.
ingredients are already taken out of. school?
Yes, and we actually did that last year because we knew this was coming, and it actually was only 5 items that had those ingredients in them, and it was mainly our a la carte items, which I was gonna tie in. All the high schools sell a la carte. Shameless plug for my department, but if your students are looking to buy snacks. Okay.
My credit card. All day long.
I can work our Canyon and Pinnacle, so I mean, I'm cool. So my information is on the Nutrition Wellness Department website. I also have cards, though I brought them, so I will hang around if you want my card. I think I've handed out one already, but I'm available. You can call me whenever. Sometimes I'm out serving lunch. So if you call between the hours of 11 and 12:30, I'll call you back when I get back from serving lunch. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for indulging us and going over time. I really appreciate the opportunity. We'll try to do better next time and keep it within our time limit. But hopefully you found these updates informative and valuable to us. If you've got other updates that you would like to see us bring forth in UPC, make sure you're having those conversations with Rebecca. As I mentioned to you, Rebecca and I plan these every month. And so that's an opportunity for us to collaborate and determine what's going to be best to hit the mark for this particular group. So thank you all. I really appreciate your time and everything.
Thank you so much, Dr. Courson and Cabinet, all of our special guests. If you have questions, please share them. There'll be time for sharing that after the meeting, and you can always email us and we will try to answer them or connect you with the right people.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.